You're watching Pyro Media Network.
I could be running or I'm chasing you, but I won't, 'cause I got better things to do. Rather spend my precious time chasing somebody who loves me too. If I got $1 for every time you slam the door, I would be the richest girl alive, life. If you hadn't run away every time I asked you stay, you would sleep right next to me tonight. But you didn't know me, all you wanted was a game to play, and you couldn't handle that I had no ways. Around your magic, you decided I'm a winner, babe. But you didn't win this, it's a part of
Thank
the
you for tuning
game.
in. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We hope your experience is fruitful. Please feel free to visit our website to find out how you can join our growing family. While we are loading your experience, please do us a quick favor and hit that like button from whichever platform you're watching or listening on. Also, share so others may enjoy as well. And we hope you would consider hitting that subscribe or follow button so you can check out more of our amazing content. All right, let's start the show.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to this week's episode of Nicole D. Vick Live. I was going to say happy Friday, Junior, but I don't know if I feel happy. I'm not really feeling the happiness in my spirit. I feel like there's a lot of confusion, a lot of dismay, despair. It's just a lot of stuff going on. So, greetings. How about we just gonna say greetings. I'm glad to have you here. I am Nicole D. Vick, Dr. Nicole D. Vick. One day I'm gonna remember to put the doctor in front of my name. Dr. Nicole D. Vick of Nicole D. Vick Live. You know, I'm the girl that brings you the public health, social justice stuff. That's how I see the world, so that's how I'm gonna bring it to you. I'm so glad that you're here. Now, we already talked about that 2025 came up in here like this, like angry, what's that meme? I think it's one of them cartoons and his fist is balled up by his side. That's how 2025 was like, yeah, I'm ready. And I feel like 2025 is still flipping tables. I still feel like I'm like, we ain't even finished with January and there's so much happening. So in addition to the fires that I was talking to you about last week, I feel like we have two more, one called the Hughes Fire up by Castaic. And then I feel like I saw an advisory for a fire that was near sort of the 405 freeway, just south of the Getty Center. And I'm like, what is happening down here in Southern California, LA County? What's going on? And it's not the winds because it's not windy right now. So I don't know what's happening. But I just know that there are some additional fires. People are being evacuated. I saw on social media, they were showing photos of the fire, sort of from the perspective of, if you know where Magic Mountain is, in Valencia, they were showing the fire was like just right there. So again, be careful. If you need to leave, please leave. Don't wait until it's too late. If you have to evacuate, go. Also, if you are not near the fire, still be careful because there's a lot of issues with the air quality. Think about it. Houses have been burned, lots of chemicals, products, all sorts of plastics, and all kinds of things have been burning, right? And so that ash is in the air. There's some other particles, and what I've been hearing is that the air quality monitors aren't able to necessarily pick up on those types of particles in the air. So if you have to be outside, you need to have a mask on. I wouldn't advise, this to be the time to be deciding to go outside and start jogging and running around, especially if you have allergies or if you have asthma. So please be careful. So even if you are nowhere near, but you're in LA County, just be mindful, put your mask on if you have to be outside for any amount of time, because it's like, wow, we got a lot going on. And that's literally what's been going, these freeways and the fires are jumping the freeways. And I'm like, oh my God, yes, that's the meme. That is 2025. 2025 is like, stop playing because I'm ready. And it's like, okay, we sorry. Whatever. I don't know what happened, but I'm sorry. Can we just, I thought we was going to be able to come in here, shake hands, and be good. And no. So, all right. We just going to have to make it do what it do. I also want to say, before we get into this week's topics, it's weird because my podcast or video podcast is not like a current events, like sort of talk show type thing where I just go on these little like mini rants about like what is happening. But I can't help it because it's like, what is happening? And so as I try to make sense of what's happening, I feel like one of the ways I can do that is to talk it out, right? And have this conversation with you all. And hopefully if you're watching, drop some comments, give me some insight. Maybe I'm missing something because I'm like, what is going on? But we are going to, at the end of the day, we are going to be all right because we have always been okay. And when I say we, I'm talking about Black people. We have always figured it out. We have always pushed through. Now, in recent times, this idea and concept of resilience, we kind of pushed away from it. Like, we don't want to be resilient. And I actually agree with that. I just want to be Nicole D. Vick, living in the world like everybody else. But unfortunately, because of where our society is built, some of us have had to build up resilience. Our ancestors had to build that up. And so we may have to kind of draw on that. I know we was trying to put it down. I had to go ahead and pick it back up as we push through 2025. Someone I was talking to today said, I don't know, something about the 2020s is real crazy. And I'm like, I know, it started with COVID and then what is happening? So yeah, we'll be okay. We just got to stay in community, get around people that care about you, and vice versa. And just stay connected with your people, because those are the folks that are going to keep you above water as we move forward. Okay. So let's get into some of the topics of the evening. I want to talk about healthcare. I want to talk about January 20th and since then. I want to talk about, and after the break, I want to kind of end on a more positive note. I want to talk about the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Let's get it right? So I was scrolling like I always do. I'm on Instagram scrolling a lot. I'm Facebook scrolling. And my newest one is Threads. I like Threads because Threads feels like a diary. Like, people share stories. I'm like, dang, that's crazy. Or wow, I didn't know that. But I was scrolling and I think this popped up on Google, and it was this article about the CEO of United Healthcare, the new CEO, because you remember the old one unfortunately was killed. I'm not into killing, I don't like that. So that's why I said unfortunately, he lost his life, right? And so the new CEO, Andrew Whitty, published an article. I think this was really about their what do they do when they talk to their shareholders and stuff and their earnings, and they kind of do the report of all what they're doing. And so the CEO of United Health Group, Andrew Whitty, said the healthcare system needs to be less confusing, less complex, and less costly. And so when I read that, I kind of chuckled to myself, like, you think? The rest of us regular people been saying that for a very, very, very long time. Like, and I'm like, it's kind of also for me dynamic and interesting and ironic when it's like, but people or organizations or entities like United Health Group actually help make healthcare more confusing, more complex, and more costly. So it was just ironic for me to hear that come out, or that be quoted and attributed to him. Whitty says that drug makers and hospitals are the blame. Baby, it's y'all fault that healthcare costs are high. For example, pointing out the new GLP-1 medications used for diabetes and weight loss. He noted that one of those anti-obesity drugs, there are a few, right? Ozempic is one of them, costs $900 in the US, but it's 1/10 of the price in Europe. I have heard arguments that the reason why it's cheaper in Europe is because it's so high here in the US. Like we sort of subsidize, and I don't know how true that is. If you work in pharmaceuticals and you know better than me, please correct me. Mr. Whitty says, ultimately, improving healthcare means addressing the root cause of healthcare costs. Okay. Fundamentally, healthcare costs more in the US because the price of a single procedure, visit, or prescription is higher here than it is in other countries. And some other countries have what's called, I guess, socialized medicine, right? Everybody has healthcare, which I think ultimately keeps the cost down, where our healthcare system is not built that way. Now, so again, the irony. So there's this conversation of, well, we need to keep healthcare costs down, but their revenue, United Healthcare's revenue, grew nearly 7% to $100.8 billion for the fourth quarter from the same period a year ago, while its earnings inched up to less than 2% to $5.5 billion. So I'm just like, I hear the sentiment in the sort of comment and thought process. Yeah, healthcare is expensive, but then you hear these earnings for this company, and it's like, it just feels, I don't know even what the short-sighted, or it feels sort of surface level. Like, what part are you playing in trying to bring these costs down? And of course, the other big question is, how do you keep costs down and keep quality or improve quality, right? Because often that's a hard sell. And I also want to mention and note that late last year, I published an article about the 5 things that can be done to improve our healthcare system in the United States. And I definitely touched on, things like increasing access, but I also talked about decreasing the cost of healthcare. When healthcare is expensive, guess what? People will not seek care. If they know, oh my goodness, this is going to cost me this much money, they're not going to seek care. And that's not good, because then when they finally come in, it's usually an emergency. Their issue is usually more complex, which also then means it's going to be more expensive. And I'll give you an example, just a personal example. If I had known that my ankle surgery was $43,000, I probably and I was going to have to pay for it. I don't know. I mean, I probably would have figured out how to pay for it. Let's be real, right? I probably would have took out some kind of high interest loan and figured it out. But I probably still also would have had a conversation with myself, like, can we do without? Can we just live with one ankle? Maybe, right? Because it's like 43 grand, and I did look it up. My ankle surgery was $43,000, which was also about the same cost of my daughter's birth when I had her, and she stayed in the hospital for 3 weeks and all the other things associated with that. About the same, $40,000, and I was like, I was 17. I was like, baby, I don't have that. So somebody help. And thankfully, Medi-Cal in California came through and took care of that. But just an example of, again, the high cost of healthcare. Not to say that doctors shouldn't get paid their worth and all those good things, but it's just like, oh. So I don't know. I just saw that and I was like, I gotta talk about that. I don't know. And I don't know if things are going to get any better, because the segue now, we finna switch it up, because there's a whole bunch of other things that are going to be happening on the health front federally. Some of them have already happened. And I'm like, what is that going to do to the status of the population in regards to their health? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What is happening? And so I'll share a few things, but there are things that are continuing to develop. And so what I say right now might change, right, in a few minutes. But one of the things that kind of gave me pause, I was like, whoa, the president is saying, I don't want us to be part of the World Health Organization no more. Where do I sign to get us off of this thing? right? And the World Health Organization, as you know, is a membership organization of about, I forgot, 100 and something other countries that come together, and they're trying to, improve the health of the globe, right? Stuff like COVID, super important. We need to be working together on stuff like smallpox and other types of pandemics, um, where we kind of need to have these conversations with other countries and other jurisdictions. Really, really important. And I think the thing that really stood out to me about this whole thing is that the United States was a founding member, right? So the World Health Organization released a statement like, well, we regret that you are, leaving. You was there from the first beginning. That's one of my favorite terms, first beginning, because it's funny. You was there in the first beginning when we started in 1948, and you're dropping out now. What happened? So it's just really sad to see. Now, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say that the World Health Organization is perfect. I don't know enough about it to either way, right? There probably could be some things that are done better, but I think to withdraw sends a very strong message. And I'm like, I don't know if that was the right message to send. Especially again, when we're in the age where we are, viruses, mutate, and then next thing you know, we have a pandemic, right? And we need to be concerned about how do we stop the spread, and we need to be talking to our neighbors to the north, to the south, other parts of the world. Hey, what's going on? Let's get together and formulate a strong response to this thing. These things are really important. And we saw how COVID played out. A lot of people lost their lives, and it was just, to me, feel really unfortunate that we move forward in time having walked away from a strategy or a process that could help us in the future. Because all we need is another pandemic. And let me just say this: I was taught in my grad school and in my professional experience, it is not if, it is when. Oh, if we have another pandemic. No. When, because it will happen again. Okay. Maybe not on the scale of COVID. Let's hope not, but it will happen again. And hopefully we have learned some lessons. But to me, this move seems like maybe we haven't. So that was a little worrisome to me. I also heard and saw that the reproductive rights website was like, boop, gone. So if folks were looking for help in birth control, and other types of healthcare, abortion, all of that was wiped off and you couldn't get access to it. It was literally like poof. Okay. I'm also part of Facebook groups that are focused on public health. That's my expertise. 20 years. I've taught public health for 15 years. So that's my thing. That's my jam. I could talk about it in my sleep. But I've started to see lots of people posting like, hey, I had a job offer at the CDC. It got rescinded. I now don't have a job because I left my other job to accept this job, and now I got no job. Students and graduate students, undergrad students saying, hey, I was trying to apply for a fellowship at the federal level. That has been taken up, pulled back. And so we're starting to see with this 60-day freeze that was put in, that a lot of people are being impacted. And I think, again, this really just, it's scary, not because, well, it's scary for actually a couple of reasons. To me, because it's like, public health as an institution. I'm not talking about a specific agency. I'm talking about the institution of public health, traditionally underfunded from jump. We typically do not get the level of funding that other, what is it called? Like defense, right? Like, the military or healthcare. And so now that you are putting these holds and these freezes on jobs, I feel like we are losing some of that innovation and expertise that comes from a very skilled workforce. What is going to happen to all these folks? Are they going to go into the private sector? I mean, good for them, because at least they'll be able to get a job, but I don't think there's enough for everybody, right? And it's leaving people unsettled and afraid. Well, am I going to be, are they going to, reverse the rescinding my job? Like, are they going to unfreeze the position? There's also the conversation around everything related to DEI has to go. And DEI is a social justice, civil rights, and a public health issue as well. So what happens then to making sure that everybody has access to health care, other types of public health services? When we kind of do away with those things, people will suffer. And let's be very real, and I've always felt this in my heart, people will die. And that's the part that just like, I can't. I don't understand how we can be in a country where they're like, where the people in charge are like, okay, and it's like, no, it's not. That's not acceptable. And the last thing I'll say, and again, there's a whole bunch of things that have happened, but the other one that kind of touched, in my mind, FDA and other federal orgs cannot send out communications to the public. So I just saw the MMWR Morbidity Mortality Weekly Report for the first time since 1960. We don't have it. And hopefully it comes back. I'm like, what are the healthcare workers and the public health departments and the state health departments? That's where you find out what's going on. Who got chlamydia? Who got gonorrhea? What is the data on this or that? We kind of understand what the health trends are from those reports, and then we don't have it now. So kind of being crippled in that way, which is really, really disheartening. Whew. Well, I've been really sad and quiet about a lot of it because I'm just trying to absorb it. I don't know what this is going to mean long term, but I see short term people are not going to be employed, which is also kind of a bad thing. If you are not employed, you can't, contribute. You can't take care of yourself. And then again, for the institution, I just feel like overall that we're going to be losing valuable people that have a lot to give to public health. A lot of us come into this work because we have the heart for it. I don't know if that makes sense. So yeah, I think we should probably take a break because I've been running my mouth. Oh, let me one more thing. And yes, that fits. One more thing. We're going to go to break. Listen, y'all. I didn't watch the inauguration. I just didn't. But I know everybody was mad at Nelly. Everybody was mad at Snoop Dogg. Everybody see Elon and what he did. And listen, like one of the people I follow said, yes, that was what it was. It was. I was not surprised at Snoop. Yeah, that's what it was. Okay, so we don't have to question it. I was not surprised at Mr. Snoopy Snoop. I wasn't. I felt like he had gotten to a place where I feel like he had crossed over, right? Like with the Martha Stewart stuff, like he over there now. But for some reason, Nelly, I don't know why I expected better from Mr. Nelly. Listen, this is what I said to myself. I said, Nelly got another baby because ain't Ashanti pregnant again. I said, he got two babies. The babies ain't going to feed themselves. Nelly said, I got to go and get some money. But then when I heard that he was started talking about it's not about the money, I said, well, Nelly, you could have just, why you just didn't leave and let it keep the lie going, and we would have been okay with you on that. Like, it was, I'm broke, I need the money, I gotta go do my thing. But then when he said it wasn't about the money, I'm like, okay, Nelly, man, you hurt my feelings. And I think what this is about will lead into the conversation after the break about MLK's legacy. Because I'm like, y'all ain't on program. I need y'all to stay on program. And everybody needs to know what the program is. And that wasn't the program. What's going on? So let's go to commercial because see, I can't do it. I'll see y'all in a little bit.
Are you ready for enlightening conversations that transcend boundaries? Get ready for Conversations with Clergy, brought to you by the HIV Vaccine Trials Network. In partnership with the world's largest publicly funded international collaboration, the HVTN is dedicated to evaluating vaccines to prevent HIV and COVID-19. But their impact doesn't stop there. The HVTN is at the forefront of advancing vaccinology, social and behavioral sciences, statistics, immunology, and even contributing to the research on tuberculosis and COVID-19 vaccines. By supporting Conversations with Clergy, the HVTN not only brings you thought-provoking discussions, but also contributes to the global effort to combat infectious diseases. Tune in, stay informed, and be a part of the change. Conversations with Clergy, supported by the HVTN, empowering conversations, empowering lives. Join us in this journey of knowledge, understanding, and progress. Conversations with Clergy, proudly brought to you by the HIV Vaccine Trials Network, because together we can make a difference.
We are back. I'm gonna switch gears entirely because also the same day as the inauguration was also MLK Day of Service. And I know in LA, a lot of the activities got postponed, right? Like the parade because of the fires, right? The air quality and stuff like that. And even just because people were doing a lot of work and helping in recovery and, so it didn't feel right. And I agree that they, hey, let's postpone it. And I think it's going to happen sometime in February, which makes sense because it's Black History Month. So a lot of programming didn't happen this year here in LA. I know the Empowerment Congress is happening, I believe, this coming weekend. So that's still going on. But we're almost 60 years out from the tragic death of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Say that whole name correctly. And I just wanted to really reflect on his legacy from my perspective. I'm a child of the 80s. I went to a predominantly Black elementary school, parochial school, right down the street, actually, from where I live now, Ascension Lutheran School. And because that school was predominantly Black, and I mean Black all the way from the principal, all the way to everybody up in that school was Black. We really got a lot of Black history, and it wasn't just in February. We got it all year long. I remember every year there was one young man in my class, and I'm Facebook friends with him all these years, Christopher Barnett. He also has his doctorate degree, so he's Dr. Christopher Barnett. He used to be the one that was responsible for doing the I Have a Dream, the MLK I Have a Dream speech every year, and he would memorize it, and we would do all this stuff. But we also learned about African kings and queens, so I think that was very unique for us. It wasn't just MLK, Rosa Parks, and that's it. It was like we would learn about the African kings and queens. So we learned about pre-colonialization, and it was really great. But I just remember learning so much and having such this huge respect for MLK. Of course, now as an adult, and we have learned more about his life and his legacy and the things he's done. He was not perfect, right? I understand that there's nuance. When I die, y'all gonna be like, Nicole, she did that? Yes. That's part of me. Okay, my bad. Sorry. I was a teen mom. Yes, we are all, imperfect in some way, not excusing, right? But we can't ignore the tremendous amount of work that was done, right? And it wasn't just him, right? It was other people at the time. But all I have to say, I just remember very much learning a lot about him and the work that he did. And I don't think we hear so much about it. And maybe because at the time, the school I was in and the education I received, it was just different. I just don't feel like, for example, my own daughter got that level of sort of understanding about his legacy in her childhood and in her schooling. But one thing that stuck out to me, I saw a video on Instagram. I told y'all I'll be on social media. And it was a video that I had never seen before. It was in color. It was MLK's father, also Reverend MLK, right? Who was so grief-stricken at the funeral that he needed to be held up. Like there's literally people holding him up, and you could hear the sounds of just despair. I had never seen that before. And I feel like the upside of seeing that kind of footage and seeing all the documents and seeing the life and the pictures that are in color versus in black and white, it serves to humanize someone that we have literally sort of placed up, like he's up here in the sky, like MLK is like here, and we're like, oh, but it's like this person lived, breathed, had a family, had children, had a life, was probably scared, was sad, and all the emotions. So I just feel like even almost 60 years later, some of this footage that we're even just now seeing for the first time, now, really serves to humanize the work, to humanize the person, and he becomes less of this sort of abstract figure that we know, did all this great work, but he becomes a person. And I feel like that is so important. And I'll tell you why. I don't know if you all know who Latasha Harlins is, but if you were in LA in the 90s, you know what happened. This was a young girl who went into a liquor store in South Central LA, was accused of stealing orange juice, and the shop owner shot and killed her. And I always felt a way about it because she wasn't that much older than I was. And some years later, I was at the California African American Museum, and they had an exhibit on her life. And you walk in there, and I will never forget a school assignment with her. Her teacher had given her A+. All these little pieces of who she was, and it humanized her. This was a person, a young girl, because it was really easy to, oh, well, these little kids are bad. You saw her for who she was. And sometimes it's really important to see people just as people. And so that's kind of just something that stuck out to me that I wanted to share and really kind of bring forward. And then I wanted to ask the question, almost 60 years after his death, what is his legacy? And bringing back what I just talked about with Nelly and Snoop Dogg and all the other folks, I'm like, have we gone so far beyond that we have forgotten what got us to where we are? And I hope that question makes sense. Because for me, I'm very much tied to my ancestors and the things that they did. And I'm very aware of what their sacrifices got me to today. Right? I've been able to take care of my family. I was able to buy a house. And I know that everyone's experiences are different, but all I'm saying is I know on whose shoulders I stand on, right? These literally people that I know that spoke life into me, who prayed over me, who are no longer here. Those people, I literally stand on their shoulders. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for them. And so when I think of people like MLK and all the others, again, it wasn't just him, Rosa Parks, all the Malcolm X, right? All of them. Like, have we lost sight of the level of sacrifice and work that got us to a point to where we are, so that like things like for us to have a Nelly and a Snoop Dogg performance, like I hope I'm making sense because I'm having a hard time. There was even this situation where what's the girl name? Sexy Red, and she had did some AI and had a picture of it was her and MLK. And child, Bernice King said, "Girl, if you don't take that picture down," as she should. She was absolutely correct. Dr. Bernice King said, "Listen here, that's my dad, right? And he is, a part of our culture and is an ancestor. Please don't do that." And she took it down. She apologized and took it down. But what I heard was people was mad at Dr. Bernice King. And it was like, no, she was correct. Come on. And I'm like, have I become that old auntie where I'm like, no, that ain't right. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. That wasn't right. So again, have we gotten so far past the struggle, the fire hoses on us? You can't sit here. Have we gotten so far past that we have forgotten what it took to get us past that? I'm worried because I feel like we making some choices and some decisions that really, to me, don't make no sense. And the other question I have is, whose fault is it? I kind of honestly want to say it's our fault. It's not nobody else's fault. It's our fault. We collectively, somewhere, something happened where the ball was dropped, right? We didn't do a good job of talking to the young kids about everything. So now they don't really know what's going on. So I will say, and I could be wrong, y'all tell me if I'm wrong, I feel like in some ways we have failed. We have failed in saying collectively as a culture, nope, that's no, don't do that, right? Or hey, let's sit here and talk about the legacy. Let's talk about the work and the effort that took us from here to here. I don't know if we did enough work on that. I don't know. And I think about that often and a lot. And I think that in the next 4+ years, because it's not going to just be a 4-year thing, we got a lot of conversations that we're going to need to have, a lot of decisions that are going to need to be made. And I'm just really worried in that respect. So yeah, that's my reflections and thoughts about 60 years, almost 60, not there yet, almost 60+ years after the murder of MLK Jr., where we are. But I would love to hear your thoughts in the chat. Somebody help me. Maybe I'm seeing it wrong, and that's fine. I will, whatever you think is going on, let's talk about it. Maybe I'll have somebody come on during Black History Month and we can have a conversation about that. All right, y'all, I'm gonna go because there's so much to think about and so much that's going to be happening in the next few weeks. Yes, that fist. Maybe we need to just put our fists. If 2025 fists is like that, we gotta put both our fists and be ready. And the bad thing is my nails too long. I'm too cute. I can't even put my hand in the fist, y'all. I don't know. Anyway, all right, y'all. I will see you next week. Thank you all for stopping by. I saw a comment and I didn't address it, but I will in the chat later on. It was about healthcare. Yes, if you don't trust healthcare, you ain't going there. They're not gonna go. And that's not just anecdotal. There's research on that. So we can talk about that later too as well. But thank you all for joining. As you know, I have a website, www.NicoleDVick.com. All the things are there, the nails, the books, the my articles that I've written, the one I talked about healthcare is linked there as well. So check that out if you want to hire me to do anything, MC, teach, facilitate, all the things, I can do that. Pick up my books. My latest is an anthology called Triumph in the Trenches. It's about helping Black folk navigate through work. And that's a huge thing now because a lot of folks on the federal level that look like me and you are not employed or are worried that they won't be employed. So Triumph in the Trenches may be a good resource for you. Follow me on social media. I thought TikTok was going to be gone. It's back, but I still ain't on it. I ain't posted nothing. Follow me on LinkedIn. I'll get back to posting on there soon. All right, y'all. I'll see you next week. Take care. For real. Like, for real. Take care. All right, y'all. Bye.
Thank you for watching Pyro Media Network. For more information, please visit pyromedianetwork.com.